Haha, so you think you've got anything against my earthquakes and surface? Prepare yourselves to get wrecked. Oh nice, now I just need to breed this Pokemon to pass down its nature and hopefully get the right ability, as I just got the right egg moves. Perhaps if I get a French Ditto I can then try to use the Masuda method and get perfect IVs on a competitive shiny Pokemon. Then I'll have to take out exactly 30.4 Butterfree and a Breezel, then afterwards 13 Whimsicott and 4 Magikarp, so I can get just the right stats I need for this ultimate beast of a monster. Well then, has Pokemon really become this abstract numbers game where you put in all this effort to hopefully win by a 50% chance? That is why I'm happy to welcome you to Pokemon Explained. In this episode, I'll cover the topic IVs. In the Pokemon games, there are a couple of hidden values that a Pokemon has. Among these are EVs, IVs, and happiness. IV stands for individual values, and EVs for effort values. EVs have been covered in its own video already, which I recommend you to check out after this video. Before you watch any further, I highly recommend you to check out the video about BST if you don't know what that is, and here's why. BST, EVs and IVs all directly influence the stats a Pokemon can have. As a Pokemon's BST is the starting point, it's therefore recommended to learn what that is first, before you continue expanding your Pokemon knowledge about IVs. People tend to get confused when they first hear about the two things called EVs and IVs. A way to simplify and explain the general confusion is that you can think about a number, let's say 100. What EVs and IVs are doing are simply to increase that number. Let's have a look at Honedge, which has 45 base HP. As a result, Honedge will have 200 HP at level 100. IVs are additional stat points that are added on top of a Pokemon's base stats. These additional stat points range between 0 and 31. What they do are to add one additional stat point to a specific stat at level 100. The Honedge you are looking at here is a level 100 Honedge with 0 IVs in HP, thus 200 HP as you just saw. Let's say we find another Honedge, but this one has 17 IVs in HP. This Honedge will then have 217 HP at level 100. What I've yet to make clear is that a Pokemon have an IV in each of its stats. These are completely independent from each other, which means that because you have a Pokemon with 15 IVs in HP, doesn't necessarily mean that it will have 15 IVs in attack also. I would assume that you've caught up on this already, but in case you didn't, well now you know. The way these stats are ordered are HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. Because of this, you may stumble across a series of numbers similar to this one. The part you just watched is essential for understanding IVs, and I recommend you to go back to the timestamp shown on screen right now, if you didn't quite get what I just showed you. If you've got it all right and it all makes sense, then let's continue. To further explain the effect of IVs, we need to have a look at another example, this time a Pokemon at level 50. A simple math problem shows us that the effect of IVs are cut in half at level 50. Even though a Pokemon may have 31 IVs in a stat, the effect will be lower because the Pokemon is not at level 100. What this means is that at level 50, the visual effect of a Pokemon's IVs are cut in half. If a Pokemon is at level 50 and has 31 IVs in a stat, it will gain an additional 15.5 points. Because a Pokemon can't have a half stat point, it will only get an additional 15 points when having 31 IVs in a stat. This way, a Pokemon at level 50 will have the same amount of additional stat points when having either 30 or 31 IVs in a stat, because you can't have a half stat point. I can also mention that this mechanic is important to remember if you want to get a specific hidden power. We need a more visual example on this to make it more clear, and I think Slugma can help us with that. At level 50, because Slugma has 40 base HP, it will have 100 points in HP if it has 0 IVs. We have a look at yet another Slugma, but this one has 31 IVs in HP. Because you can't have a half stat point, this Slugma will have 115 HP at level 50. After all this, you may be left with the question, well, where do IVs come from? These are hidden values that you cannot change, as of the making of this video. You will therefore need to find some sort of IV tutorial in your current game or learn how breeding works. That is basically what you need to know about IVs. To summarize, IVs are additional stat points that are added on top of a Pokemon's base stats. They range between 0 and 31 and show differently in a Pokemon's stats based on a Pokemon's level. That was it for this episode. I hope you learned something new and would like to check out the other episodes on screen right now. If you're new to the channel, why not subscribe and join our community? I'll see you again sometime, and until then, be your very best.